This is episode 213 of the InnerFight podcast with Milica Bursac, a friend of mine, long-term Inner Talks number 3 or number 4 speaker. I have to pronounce her name properly. Milica, welcome to the show. I get it right.
Hi.
I've had the English lesson. I've had the Serbian lesson. Thank you very much for joining us.
Little warm-up.
The warm-up, you're actually just educating me a lot about how the languages are different, but we're going to learn later to read and write in Serbian.
I promise.
Originally from Serbia.
Yep.
How many years have you been
I'm
in Dubai?
in Dubai
Give us yourself
16.
16 years. Give us a little bit of background on what you do, why you came here, and what's going on before we head into a big topic that we're going to chat about today.
Okay, so came here 16 years ago. Like most of the people looking for better future, Serbia was not the place to look for future at those times. I was just after bombing, and my house was shaking a little bit. My friends left. My college was closed for a while. I was at my final year.
Right.
Thought I should leave since all my friends were left. Got the opportunity by pure serendipity to come to Dubai. My parents were against it. I came 1
Really?
week. Took me 1 week, no money in my pocket.
Really?
Just came.
Just up and left. Why did you choose Dubai?
Fitness instructor. It was offer. I gave her one thing, and she during the bombing, all borders were closed. She came home from Dubai. She was fitness instructor. The manager was asking her to come back. She was thinking, should she come back? And I thought, I gave her another offer. She says, I'll give you mine. And 7 days later, I was in Dubai.
So you came back into Dubai as someone else?
Well, she suggested me. He said, yes, fine. If you're not going to come back, can you recommend someone? And she said, yeah, sure. She's great. And I came back. And then in a matter of 7 days, I was packed and left. Yeah.
And that was the start. Was that the start of your fitness journey?
No, I was a fitness freak at home. It was probably I studied psychology, so that psychology and human motivations and drivers and pretty much life quality, anything that influenced life quality was my passion. So fitness just came as a extension of my nature, I think. Really. Yeah. I was a bit more adventurous than girls should be. Skydiving and
you say
paragliding and
you say studied, and you studied it as a background, but I mean, till this day, I know that study, and that's really one of the first things I want to jump into before we go into what we're really going to speak about. You spend an incredible amount of time studying, and for that is something I really admire, and I think that's something that we can share with our listeners. Like, a lot of people go to school, they finish university, they do a master's, and at 22, 23, we've kind of stopped the formal learning process. You've kind of gone totally against that and have been studying you were just telling me before we started the recording that you're still studying more and you're going to study more. Tell us this addiction to knowledge and this addiction to studying.
Okay,
what's going on?
I hope it's not addiction. I think, no doubt, when it comes to knowledge, it's constantly evolving, and at any point to stop learning, it's quite arrogant and gets you to any kind of dogma and pigeonhole you in pretty much one thing, talking forever. And again, it's that humbleness as well, to realize that you have limits and that you're going to have biases, and keeping that self-check on your own knowledge it's only through exposing yourself what's happening out there. Right. And I am endless. I am I think born wonder. I love learning, and it's one of the things that you never stop. And so and I'm giving opportunity, and I'm blessed to have opportunity to learn, and I take that really seriously. So,
is it something that you sort of sat down one day and you said, all right, I need to upskill myself, I need to start learning more, or have you just always been keen on research information?
I have been a little bit like Matilda. If you ever read Matilda, I come from a very small place where the books were very scarce, but I think I tried. That was my first brave trip on the bus to the library. So, So, yeah.
So you spend a lot of time but is it because that's why I want to kick off with this, because I see a lot of people not really spending time to study because, I'm super busy in life. I work 9 to 5. I want to go to the gym. I want to relax. I want to. Do you have a schedule where you sort of commit daily, or in a week, I want to study X amount to better myself?
I think it's embedded in my life. So I search for, considering my life is busy, I'm a mother, and I run a support group, and I'm in inclusion, and I have parallel lives really when it comes to projects that I run. I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I do spend a lot of time searching for people who are really amazing in their field, and I ask them for their time. I do follow effectively their work.
Yeah.
And so I do work around my time schedule, but I make a conscious effort to learn every day. I really make a conscious effort.
Let's stick on this point. You wake up in the morning.
Yes.
When does the learning start? When do you learn best? Is there a specific time of day? Do you get into it straight away, or are you a night learner, or how does it?
While I was
this is
coming
completely
to you,
not what I briefed. We're going to talk about.
No. Okay. While I was coming to you, so I'm on the audiobooks as well. So I listen a lot. I drive a lot because of the work and a lot of responsibilities. So I listen to podcasts, audiobooks. In the evening, I don't watch TV. I never watch TV.
Right.
So
do you have a TV?
Yes, but I never watch TV.
Right.
So it's basically, we are blessed with technology we have, and I use it to the maximum.
Right.
So any opportunity to connect, I don't think I have a break in the day where I don't actively use it to learn something. Again, it's a conscious effort.
Wow.
So I think I daily spend actively 2 hours learning something, either relearning because it's valuable to listen again or study again. Because it emphasizes principles I follow.
Right.
And then really engaging into something completely new. I make an effort to challenge, as much as you do in a gym, to listen to something or learn something I don't understand at all.
Right.
Like I really don't. And I really listen again, and I make myself really to hurt how much I don't get it. I write it down, and I think it's like anything to really change your ability. And definitely when it comes to learning, you have to really stretch yourself as much as in the gym. So stretching your brain muscles is the same.
Is all of your learning and all the content that you consume all in English?
Yes.
And when did you learn English?
School, but it was basically Mickey Mouse English. I had to be forced to, get to the next level when I start traveling, running away from home to places where they speak English. You kind of have to know English a little bit. Well, no, before that was a little bit more traveling as well.
Right.
But I think studying, again, speaking another language, it's a challenge in itself because I had to finish my master's in English, and that was not a pleasant experience. I thought I'm smarter than I actually.
I mean, that's what I really respect, obviously, about you and about other people who English is their second language, and you guys spend such an incredible amount of time studying. English is my first language, and I like to think I learn a bit and do like absorb content and learn content, but compared to what you do, I'm definitely not studying.
It's okay. I don't recommend it to everybody.
For my masters, when it comes to the content that you absorb, you mentioned there that you listen to podcasts, you listen to audiobooks. Where do you feel that? Is there an area that you learn better in, or is there certain topics that are good to listen to, or because I think we're in a world now that there is a lot of content out there. People do realize that they need to learn, but it's sort of the way to get that information in. What works best for you?
Again, anything that really is compatible with your passion, go for it, because you will naturally search for it, and you will naturally upgrade and evolve, even if it's something difficult.
Right.
Just the joy of learning something new will keep pushing you forward, and you will evolve. I think the issue is really critical thinking and finding a good content and understanding what's worth reading and what's not worth reading, really. So, again, one of the first things I keep saying to everybody, critical thinking and evaluation of material is the first thing before you are going to spend time. Same like, would you go 2 hours with a good trainer or with a bad trainer? You will spend 2 hours anyway. But the one will give you results and probably give you skills to continue even without him. The other one, I think you're going to waste your time a little bit.
Make sure that we're absorbing the right content, basically.
I think you have to have a very good censorship. What's a good content, and why are you reading and not something else? And if you are rejecting that material, why that and not something else? Because if they claim coming from the same science background and have a supposedly good research methodology, why they're contradicting? So I think at one point you engage yourself a little more reflective conversation with what you are going to read. But very I think let's go on that's why I think the topic we're going to talk about is weight and obesity is fascinating because it's littered with good and bad material.
Well, we'll definitely jump into that. Before we do, last bit on learning, your favorite podcast is?
Sigma. And then InnerFight. And then InnerFight.
My heart. No, I'm sure there's a lot of great ones out there. Favorite recent audiobook that you've listened to that you'd recommend for people?
I think I'm going with now I'm listening to something I really like. It's a habit, so I can actually mention later the title and everything. I think it's lots of stuff. Right now I'm learning on a change behavior. So
right. Amazing. You mentioned just before that you live a parallel lives.
Yes.
Explain to us a little bit about what you do currently and what's going on in your life.
Okay, so I'm a mom and a wife, obviously, and I'm a nutritional gatekeeper in my house, which means everything in the house happens under my hand.
Nutritional gatekeeper. Is that an official job description?
Yeah.
I might start calling Holly that.
Nothing goes to my house without my check when it comes to nutrition.
Awesome.
I'm very passionate about that. I have a child that was born with learning difficulties, and that took me on another journey. And from that on, I became exceptionally passionate about rights for children with special needs.
Right.
And I started a parent support group, a Facebook, Include Me,
right.
UAE. Webpage should come. I'm very proactive advocate in a community for inclusion. That's I'm equally committed to that as much as to the weight management and personal training.
You mentioned it. This is a huge topic, inclusion. Talk to us a little bit about that, because you've obviously had some exposure, some experience, and got some interesting views on that, which I think is very interesting.
Okay, just briefly, inclusion is really giving all the children equal right to a good education and equal right to successful life in society. Unfortunately, Dubai is exceptionally exclusive.
Right.
And selective,
right.
Starting from education. They don't accept children with additional needs.
Right.
We're talking about just the learning difficulties.
Right.
And so most of these children end up really going from one school to another, hoping just to be in.
Yeah.
And we're not even discussing how well they're going to be educated in these schools. Just to get in is a first massive wall. It's a Chinese wall. You can't get over that. So because there's no law. So right now I am working. I got in touch with government. They came back. I want to work actively with them.
Right.
And really draft that law and enforce the law. We don't need policing. We need mentorship. We need change with a huge involvement from everybody.
Yeah.
And it's possible because guess what? Someone is already doing it. We just need to implement. We're not discovering anything.
I remember we had a young kid come to the gym. He was about 14 years old, and he was quite overweight, about 15 kilos overweight at that age, which was, it's alarm bell straight away. And we sort of turned around to him and said, what have you been doing? He said, I've not been doing anything because I was too overweight to join the sports class at school.
Yes.
I mean, it's incredible. And you've obviously seen multiple cases like that where there's exclusions of kids within the school system as well.
Yes, and I think it's fascinating what this boy said. Every child's behavior is a communication to us.
Right.
So the fact that he's on the sideline, it's not him choosing to be on the sideline. He's saying there's a barrier. Can you help me overcome this?
Yes.
So he says, I'm overweight. I can't do what you're asking. Can you give me something else I can do to make me to actually start doing. Start, yeah. So just because I can't be on this level doesn't mean I can't start. And that's exclusion. Why wouldn't you live a little bit in the world of that child and say what would be meaningful to him, considering that he's motivated?
Right. Yeah.
And even if he's not motivated, how can you motivate?
Yeah.
And the children are the best students. They're really pleasers most of the time when it comes to grown-ups. They want to get involved. And so removing barriers is the first time, but we are responsible. It is the people who create context for success.
Right.
Are you creating for everybody or for selective few who are easy?
Exactly. I think that's the thing as well. Is a lot of the time it's for ease, isn't it? It's much easier to build a facility that doesn't cater towards children with learning needs or special needs people, or in some areas disabled access, than it is to create a facility or an environment with all of those things in place, isn't it?
Again, it's just the way we attitude it, and how what we've been discussing human rights and that we are all equal and that we are actually talking about diversity, not really disorders or differences and labeling. I think the labeling goes for people who are overweight. I don't think it's easy to be in an overweight body as much as it's and being in any way different, that visibly different.
Yeah.
And again, we have, considering that the values of humanity, compassion, empathy, that collaboration is the only way to sustain this earth. I can't actually understand at all exclusion at any point. I can't.
That's what we really hear, not exclusion, but obesity and
Exactly.
overweight. That's what we're more prepared to talk about, but I think that's a really nice lead into it. I want to kick this off with a stat that you might have, or you might have an updated stat of.
Okay, so obesity is really amazing, not in a positive way, but that in the last 30 years, we haven't had one national story that is successful in terms of combating obesity. There's not one.
Right.
One of the recent studies, 2011, that was well done, actually, globally, the estimates roughly 500 million adults are obese, and that's an index of BMI 30 and higher.
Right.
But if we look at if we include 25 BMI, which is overweight plus obese, we are looking at 1.5 billion people.
1.5 billion people
adults.
In the world.
We're talking about adults here.
Just adults in the world are suffering from overweight based on
obese, yes.
a BMI of 25 or over.
And higher.
Incredible.
Which is 10% men, 14% women. Again, now in poor countries, we have this paradox where we have obesity and starvation at the same time. So you could have in the same family malnutrition and obese human being, which is unbelievable. This is so it's not an issue anymore of rich people, which was once upon a time. It's actually everybody. When it comes to Middle East, 60% of men are obese, overweight, obese, or 65 women.
Wow.
We know that local population is more prone to obesity, but we do know also the expat community in a matter of 5 years doubles their weight and the diabetic rate here as well.
Wow.
So
incredible. And but when we look, I mean, the root of the problem was sometimes we can see, like, which is a lot more frightening for me, is the percentages in sort of teenagers. And that 12 to 18-year-old, I think something like 49% or 47% of the youth are actually suffering from obesity as well. So, I mean, the problem is huge, right?
Yes.
And getting worse.
Yes.
And so what do we do?
Well, that's $1 million question.
You have to answer that.
Right.
You have to give all the solutions.
When it comes to kids, I mean, the issue is really big because, again, and one good thing there, we still have a prevention there, much better, opportunity and much better opportunity for prevention than actually with the grown-ups who have put on weight. Let's just make sure to know that once you put on weight, it's exceptionally hard to lose it for a million different reasons.
Right.
And so when it comes to kids, setting them for that really difficult journey, get going.
Yeah.
It's almost cruel. It's from most of us who are actually aware how bad this is. And this is where the question comes of context we live in, and really environment. Obesogenic environment is undoubtedly one of the biggest issue we have. So if we look at it just the whole lifestyle of teenagers, let me just explain. If you go into IB system, most people talk about video game and potato couch and watching TV. Try and finish IB with the top marks, and trust me, you're sitting as much as that kid who is playing video games.
Really?
You're sitting hours and hours. You're not even thinking after school activities. We have kidnapped kids' lives mostly for studying and academic achievement. Competitiveness in academia is fascinating, actually.
Right.
So when it comes to our children, again, UAE is not a place that most people see as a whole year-round, I would say, intuitively walking, which means you just would walk because of environment. We haven't designed actually the city to walk naturally, and we use car on a daily basis. Our children don't go to school anyway by themselves; they're being driven. So that's already eliminates. We pretty much organize this life completely.
Yeah.
Again, these children are also have as much as grown-ups restricted sleep. We do find with them. How difficult it is in literally next 5 minutes, any kind of junk food here. Just think about it. Everywhere, 5 minutes. You don't even have to make a true even physical effort. A drive far to find any kind of carnival of junk food here.
Carnival of junk food. I mean, let's dial it back to that. We started speaking about learning, and you obviously learn a lot. I try and learn a lot. A lot of our listeners are learning a lot. They're hoping to come to the podcast to learn something. So we're more knowledgeable now than we've ever been.
Yes,
we've got access through the internet, through all different mediums of content to have content to absorb it and to upskill ourselves. We're a lot smarter. The average person can fathom an answer to most health and nutrition questions. If you say to people, is ice cream good for you? If we did a poll now, we went out in the street, is ice cream good for you? No. Is ice cream good for you? No. But what's happening? Because we know that all this stuff is terribly bad for us, but from a young age, we're putting the kids on it, unless you're the nutritional gatekeeper, which you are. So what's the issue here in society or with humans in that we know everything's terrible, but we're still, what do you think about that?
Okay.
What's the... I know you've got thoughts on it.
Well, this is a multi-level question.
It is.
I'll try to tackle. Of course, education is one. Clearly, again, one of the issues with education, considering everybody can now post on internet, just attempt to weed that out. What is really minutia and what's really worth following is it's an amazing attempt from anybody. So I think over time you're just going to be very tired. Once I kidnapped your common sense and you rely on everything on internet, I think you're going to be doing a lots of trial and mistake. One of the worst things that we've done to people is just plainly say, eat less, move more. Means nothing really because it doesn't have behavioral goals. It doesn't tell you what does that mean in real life.
So less ice cream.
And I would say I wouldn't moralize any food here, actually. I think there is no bad food. There is a bad diet.
Right.
And when I come bad diet, it's really a diet consistently fails on a quality.
Right.
Consistently fails on a really any nutritional value.
By diet, we mean the overall approach to eating is on every level is quite poor.
Absolutely. I don't think any food should be removed. I don't think any food is bad or good or has a miraculous effect on any of us. Otherwise, someone would be very rich now because every year we have some kind of amazing superfood. It doesn't really, we don't live longer at all, I have to say.
But this is the funniest thing as well.
We don't live longer because of any of these superfoods, but we do live longer. But the reason why we live longer could be explained for many different reasons, not basically for the
this is one of the things as well, is that people will generally say, if you look at the average age, and I know we're jumping around a little bit here, but it's all interesting points.
Live longer.
If we're living longer now than we did 30 or 40 years ago. So what's going on there?
Okay, this is quite interesting. We do live longer. Let me just say, once the sanitation kicked in around, proper for most of the world, I think we have increased dramatically our age anyway because we were removed from a infectious diseases,
absolutely.
Technology, medication, diagnostics have increased. We are picking up diseases earlier. We have preventative, checkups, especially, now in place consistently, especially in developed countries. But if you go back to poor countries, you're going to see that age has not increased as much. So clearly it's the environment and context rather than any genetics or, have we been really doing something fascinatingly? We have removed ourselves. We have, pharma industry has been really great in fixing broken parts. But preventativeness is not there. Let me just push in another data. If you are, for every 15 kilograms of extra, you have really increased up to 30% of earlier death.
Right.
So we could live much longer, actually,
so let's
considering
just break
all
that
the benefits.
down quickly. If you increase 15 kilos, so if you're 15 kilos overweight, which through my experience, and you'll be able to probably back this up, the average person that comes in that's overweight is around 10 to 15 kilos overweight. We're reducing the life expectancy by...
probability. I wouldn't say probability of your earlier that you would maybe genetically on a different environmental context, it's probably 30%, which means we could live longer, actually, considering all the what is given to us, all the medicine improvements, technology. We could actually live way longer. And let me just say something. The question is not living longer. The question is of quality of
quality,
life.
right? And this is what I wanted to ask you, because you see a lot of people. I mean, the look at some industries that are almost in boom, and it sounds a little bit cynical, but nursing homes are keeping people alive till they're 100, but past 70, those people have no clue who they are. So are we synthetically keeping people alive, and through what we're able to do now that we weren't able to do before?
Again, the value of life is undisputable. Everybody deserves to live as long as they possibly can. But I think if we look at the blue zones around the world where we see people who live beyond 100, and what is really overlapping with them? Okay, so definitely a bit more restricted diet. They do consume around 15% less on average than majority of people around the world.
Overall,
a calorie restrictive diet. They do eat mostly seasonal. And let me just emphasize something. Spiritually, they're very strong. Community-wise, strong belonging. Stress-wise, when it comes stress-wise, usually you have in Italy, you have in Japan, you have Amish cultures in America. Remember, they are small huge
communities,
very much community orientated, strong support by family ties, strong moral values throughout. But again, they sleep well, they eat well, they respect the environment, they live a bit more cued in with the environment. So talking about only eating less or moving more is actually really underplaying everything that influence our quality of life. And I think for most people, they worry very often, should I eat my organic apple? In the meantime, everything else is falling apart.
But smoke my organic cigarette.
Yes, exactly. So I think we should really start discussing what is really going to make the biggest difference. So one thing I have to say, for most people, losing weight is easy. Maintaining is actually exceptionally hard. Why?
So once they've lost the weight down to a level, they've lost that 15 kilos.
It is exceptionally hard. Why? Because most of the people don't have a habit, actually, an adherence. And habit is the one that's going to keep you going. Now,
absolutely.
We know that what we all want to go back to is a mindless eating of good food. And to be happy to eat it. And to be naturally resilient to overeating. Now, how do you do that? That where you don't use excessively your willpower to consistently maintain your weight. That's we don't want to live. Imagine spending your whole life thinking, should I eat? Should I not eat? Oh my God, I'm way overweight. That is a massive loss of time that you could spend committing to helping society, improving yourself, caring and loving others.
This all stems from and that's what I wanted to jump into after, about the marketing of these things. The marketing of, you're going to lose 15 kilos. You're going to lose 15 kilos in 6 weeks. And it works. It really does work.
Yes.
Like, these plans work. You follow it to a T. 6 weeks, you've lost the 15 kilos. But then we have this problem that you're speaking about. So isn't it, and this is really where I think this all goes to, is how are we as consumers, as where brands just literally attack us? They attack us on every level. They're attacking kids to get them into those fast food joints, and then when they've got them there, the next brand comes along and attacks the middle-aged or the 25-year-old or the 45-year-old to get rid of those 15 kilos. Where's the commercial side of it?
Well, the cues to eat, I mean, just everywhere. Let me just from your house where you set yourself up to failure from the get-going with your cereal boxes all over the kitchen that are cueing you to eat sugar from get-going, to literally TV ads and again, the way they are sold is from organic, that's constantly plays to your sentiment of some kind of little farm with the ethical raising of the animals, to showing you that you're going to have the best party and best time of your life. It's really I think what I'm admired is that food industry has knows more about what human is than anybody else. I think they plays very well to our cues. Who we inherently are. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a obesity issue. When it comes to marketing, the only thing, and that's where the government comes in, it has to be clear restriction and control for kids advertisement. They are free. They know what kids fall for. When you have a tantrum in a public place, you're going to go buy that kid meal for sure.
Is there a country in the world that you know of that actually has restrictions on?
Yes. Japan has a totally different attitude. If you walk into their schools, they make children to make food. They clean their own kitchen. They clean their own school. They're embedded from the get-going. Again, let me just explain. These children are not being taught. They're modeling. Whole society is modeling lifestyle. in the school, they model what they talk. They
Yes.
walk the talk.
Yeah.
They actually spend hours teaching about health eating. Now, the reason why they're taught is not only because to take care of themselves, to take care of community, because obesity is a burden to everybody.
Everyone, right.
Of course, then they talk about environment.
Yeah.
So they start from you, but you were embedded in the society, embedded in the environment, embedded in the earth that should stay after you.
Yeah.
And the story becomes much bigger than you, yourself, and narcissistic, view in the mirror. And I think that's where Japan has that, I would say, consistency in value embedded in a food and eating.
So it's not a surprise that they're one of the
They
nations
teach
that have
kids
the
actively.
longest life expectancy as well.
It's actually responsibility toward community, self, and the earth. I think that's the value that keeps going. It's beyond yourself.
Right.
And they model it. They don't talk. They model. The kids actively cook. They really cook in the kitchen.
Let's hold that thought and hop over to another country, the United States of America,
go
where
on.
the combined industries of fast food and then, as a result of fast food, heart disease medication, the value of those industries is in excess of $500 billion a year. It's in excess of that. So you're Mr. Obama. And I've come to you and I've just sat down and said, sorry, well, we'll call you Mrs. Obama, but you've got the same the same power, and say we're just about to take $500 billion plus out of your economy. How do you react?
Sorry, what was that? Your phone a little bit got me.
My wife's calling me. She must have heard the question as well. She loves answering this one. You're Obama, and I've just told you that we're going to take $500 billion out of your industry. We're going to say no more fast food, no more junk food, and obviously in turn we won't have that health and medical industry that brings billions of dollars as well in revenue and in taxes. We're going to wipe it all out.
Okay. Well, I personally don't think punishment and eliminating anything, no matter how bad it is, you need to teach people to skill, to learn, no matter, to manage environment regardless. I don't think you should control environment for anybody. And I think you're right. We have to be aggressive somewhere. And should we start aggressively? I think first when it comes to children, I think schools are the first front. I think I would start really there actively teaching children about their body. It's fascinating how little they know about health and body from get going to until high school. They spend time on chemistry and physics, but they don't know basic stuff about environment. They don't know how to do anything in a community, and they don't know how to, do any charitable work or take care of themselves. So I think we have to find a little bit of time for meaningful. But coming back as Obama, advertisement would be heavily restricted. Tax, would I tax? Yeah. Would I tax some? Yeah, I definitely wouldn't.
Increase taxes?
Junk food has 70% went in cheaper in last 100 years. Let me just explain this. Coca-Cola came not yesterday. It's been over 100 years with us, Coca-Cola. It started in a very small bottle. Now I can baptize sometimes in a bottle of a Coca-Cola. Now, I want to, so in terms of increase of sizes, decrease in cost, manipulation of marketing, and actually giving a complete freedom under capitalistic attitude. Oh, well, it's a business, and I have, there was no conspiracy against us at all when it comes to junk food. It was just really free marketing and free business, and someone took the opportunity. Did they actually put the finger on the pulse what humans are very sensitive to? Of course, highly palatable, sugar, fatty food.
Absolutely.
That is what humans are really heavily driven genetically. The problem with this food is actually they don't make you full, and the satiety is low. And what you have, but palatability is exceptionally high. So to have any kind of self-control when it comes to this food is so darn hard. And they know this. So they surround you by something that you would naturally pick up faster the cues. And what you're having is a person that is a patisserie and a cake house all day long. How long are you going to say no? And I have to challenge anybody right now thinking they're smart than this. Go to the brunch and tell me that you will need more than you usually would. Of course you would. Because opportunity is there.
It's there,
And you're served, and the variety and choices. And that's what humans are primed for. The choice, the highly palatable food. We have been trapped ourselves in our own nature. How are we going to deal with this? Well, government has to make strong policies. But again, human skills.
You're right in what you say, and I think it's a good inroad, but to sort of make children aware of what's happening, and that's one of the things. But how are we ever going to combat this when we see,
Yes.
one of the greatest things, one of the greatest examples that I was given one day. I was sat next to a guy on a course. He was a super nice guy. He was from the north of England, and we're talking about food, and he was asking me how I ate, and I said, listen, I eat very simply. I take my protein, meat, chicken or fish, and I put with it my vegetables and a little bit of fat and have a nice day, and that's pretty much how I eat the whole time. And he goes, wow, that must cost you a fortune. And of course, I sort of puffed my chest out. There's no price for your health, and sort of really got into it, and this, that, and the other. And he said, "Well, let me tell you something." He said, "I've got 2 children. We live in the north of England. I go to the grocery store."
I'm nodding already.
I know, but it's an interesting one. And I go to the grocery store and I do exactly what you said. And to feed that family, it will cost me around £20. He said I could then, on the flip side, my option is I go to the same store, I go to the frozen food section, and I can pull out 4 pizzas that are 99 pence each. And I fed my family of 4. And he said to me, listen, I come from a normal background. I don't have a great deal of additional income. We're a young family. We're, very, very similar situations. So the point of the story and the question that sort of to get another discussion point is, can that change? And how will that change? Because there'll always be that, I mean, for this part of the region, a 6 dirham pizza, and there'll always be the steak next to it. So how do we close that gap?
I have to say, I'm very passionate about this.
I know.
But I will not dwell too long about it.
Yeah.
The fact of, when we look at, we are very privileged, you and I. Just the fact that we're on a podcast, we are very privileged.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'm very grateful for where I am in life. And I don't take it for granted. So every time I give advice, and I that's why I do not moralize any food, and I do not dare to say don't eat bread, don't eat eggs, and throw the yolk. Because considering the state of a whole globe and so many poor people that are truly starving, for us to go and moralize food as bad, and it's really, for me, unethical from our side. But I would say lots of people who say that food is, especially I would say in the case of your friend, I think a little bit of cooking class would help him to realize that you don't need actually that much money for real food. Right. If you look at and manage your own kitchen by saying you're spending money anyway, sometimes it's really spending it smarter and knowing how to do best with the resources that you have.
Right.
And it doesn't take that much actually to cook a really good meal for your kids.
Right.
It's a really variety, and we're looking a whole week, not on a daily basis hitting the mark.
True.
I keep saying it's a consistency of good diet, not every day the best diet. It's a consistency of commitment to most of the days, through most of the day, really having and eliminating just junk will have a massive damage control. Just eliminating the junk, even if you don't have money for that steak, eliminating junk, which is just snacking, mindless snacking for kids.
Mindless snacking.
It's really it's going to help a lot of people. So and this is why we have to give a valuable advice and help individual.
Yeah.
It's really to spend a little bit more time in their world and walk their shoes and then say, well, I tell you what, every problem has a solution. But I have to find the one that works for you on a long term. And you have to sit with them and ask them what is right now, especially if they're committed like your friend to a healthier lifestyle. How would we help him? And usually smarter shopping, smarter budgetizing. And let me just say, there's nothing special in organic shops. Nobody should really feel that bad about themselves by giving their kids non-organic. I think do the best you can and think about the bigger picture. What will really, is it gluten-free cookie or the sprayed apple? I'm not sure. I'll go for the non-processed one. How about you?
Absolutely.
And wash it hopefully well.
And wash it, exactly. I think, we've touched on a lot of interesting things there, but one thing I know that we haven't really dug into and is super important both to you and to I is the environment that we create for not only for children but for adults. You said you've alluded to it a couple of times. Yes, it's about the food, it's about what we're eating, but environment matters. When you speak about environment, what are the key things that you're sort of looking for, and things that people listening can go, oh yeah, I could change that in my environment and I'd get a better result?
Okay, well, I just want to put a little context here. 40 years ago, we had really obesity that was at that point, if you remember when we were kids.
Yeah.
I could not remember that many kids that were obese. Actually, they were mostly bullied, unfortunately, as I remember. We were really cruel to the kids who were overweight. That was rare. I mean, just in our lifetime, 40 years ago, obesity was not talked about. Just when I was born, that's for sure.
Yes.
What has changed in the 40 years? Let me just remind you, 1984, do you remember a craze of low fat? That's a pyramid came out from America.
Yes, when they turned the food pyramid
Sweden kind of
down.
started with in late 80s. And in 84, America pushed for pyramid. Low fat industry boomed. We started creating high sugar, carb, and allowing people to eat it. We kidnapped the common sense. Since then, obesity doubled.
Right.
Since 1984, just in our lifetime, it doubled. So you have to ask yourself, wait a second, genes haven't changed.
Right.
And this is highly preventable because just 40 years ago we didn't have it. So what's happened? Environment. And the reason why so let's start just from your house. I keep saying cues for eating are everywhere. Just your kitchen can be your biggest enemy. What are you having? Cookies and nuts first thing you see, or the fruits?
Right.
In the morning.
Right.
But think about what you see first. What is cueing you? What have you? And again, where are the cereal boxes? Are they laying everywhere around the kitchen? And is that the first thing you grab? And is it the whole? Did you ever even think beyond the cereal box at all?
Right.
So from there to walking out and thinking, what's the fastest that I can eat? Now, there is a reason why we go for quick fix. Actually, our brain is exceptionally prone to budgetizing energy, and anything that is a shortcut is going to go for.
Right.
And I'm just going to put a little, just how obvious that is. Have you ever seen streets where people actually jump and cut to the other end?
Yeah.
They don't want to go around the corner.
They don't want to go around, yeah.
And you wonder, after a while, it's an elephant. I mean, everybody's going over the grass and making that path. They just don't want to go that little extra meter.
Yeah. And often it's not even that far,
Where are you going to park? The closest to the door? It's almost achievement to park the closest to the door. It's
I always try and park the closest to the door.
It's almost achievement. It's achievement to spare energy. It's achievement to be highly efficient.
Right.
And the brain is trying to be highly efficient. And we are cued now. We are helped to be more efficient. Unfortunately, we are helped to be efficient with the junk food, processed food.
Right.
And to if before I know we're going to wrap up soon, but I want to say we didn't touch the solution. I know most people say, yeah, great. You know what? I know all this.
That's my last question.
What is
your solution to the problem?
Let me just say, the whole solution, and this is where we want to go.
Yeah.
And this is where the journey should take us, if there is a right solution.
Yeah.
That you do not use willpower excessively to control your weight. Now you're going to ask me, how is that possible in an environment? I don't sleep enough, junk food is everywhere, and there are cues for overeating constantly. Well, let me just start. Start from the house, you clean up. Clearly you have to clean up your house. There's no doubt. Don't give yourself extra cues to challenge yourself with a willpower. But when it comes to certain food, the quality of food helps you to regulate your satiety much better. We know that whole food, really highly nutritious food, help you not to feel hungry all the time. So even when you go on a slight deficit to lose that weight, this food runs much longer as a fuel, and you bear that restriction way, way better. And you actually learn the skill, because how you lose weight is how you're going to maintain it. It's the same lifestyle. There is no afterlife after losing weight.
Amazing.
It's the same.
Amazing.
And using the whole food, the one that has high fiber, high water, low processed food, no matter how much science comes back with, it is always come back. Consistency, adherence, habit building to have this on daily basis. 80-20%, 80% clean, plant-based, whole food, really good protein. Using, again, basic habits through a whole longer periods, and owning the skills. I think it's going to give you really better value for your buck than all these gadgets who are external fixing. If you don't own it, you won't maintain it.
Amazing.
And I think if you don't own the skills or habit building, so that's why I think I appreciate InnerFight. you emphasize coaching, not training.
Correct.
Coaching.
Yeah.
Coaching is mentoring someone to sustain
Habits
the
that last
efforts
forever.
and build the habit that will carry them through the life. And I keep coming back. When you eat a good food, the natural regulatory mechanisms for appetite are working really well.
Right.
And you're not hungry, actually. You don't have dips. You don't have cravings. You sleep. You sleep better. You make better decisions. Abstract thinking is better.
Yeah.
When you don't sleep, are you impulsive? Sure. You're more you're definitely not going to think abstract. Oh, this is not good for my health in 15 years if I keep going like this. That's not thinking when you're deprived of sleeping.
True.
The thinking when you're not sleeping is anything right now because I'm not in a mood, I'm cranky, and I have so much to do. So again, we have to buy ourselves, clearly energy as well to resist all this. But you know what? Eating good food will upregulate your mechanisms naturally that actually regulate your appetite.
Yeah.
Good sleep will help you have that energy to think more abstractly and reflectively about what you think.
Sure.
And again, guess what? When you exercise, everything is maintained to work better. All these appetite, satiety, feedback mechanisms, they just work better. You cue more with your body. So you lose weight through diet or you maintain through exercise.
Awesome.
And unfortunately, it almost sounds like a common sense.
I think that's
and then
one
you
of the
go and
biggest
ask
things,
yourself,
isn't it?
why are we not doing it? Well, you know what? I don't think we're teaching people habits and adherence, and we don't actually teach them awareness tools, how to use them properly.
Yeah.
This is why research is one thing, but when you sit with a human, you really ask them, what do you need?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is why every human being that, you and I know, you talk to them, you ask them, what do you need from me?
Yeah, absolutely.
What will be the most beneficial right now? What's the biggest barrier? Same for kids. I'm overweight. Okay, fine. But how did you end up being overweight?
Yeah.
And then you tackle. Is it ignorance? Is it really not knowing what to do in a gym? Is it really not having good motivation and not understanding value?
Yeah.
So asking people why in the gym to look better, that's not going to keep you long in life, isn't it? That lasts short.
Incredible, Milica. So much information, so much key stuff there, some great facts and a really interesting perspective on so many things. Thank you so much for joining us. Absolutely fantastic, packed with information. Folks, listen to it in iTunes, watch it on YouTube. This has been an absolute cracker. We'll have to get you back on the show and see the progress of your work, and maybe we'll get some updates on those stats in the next few months.
Better ones, I hope.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Cheers.